what we wanted to make in our objective was to make something that people that like drinking wine like drinking our product. We call it the non-alcoholic wine for wine drinkers. If you don't like wine, you may not like our product. In fact, you probably won't like our product, honestly. We're not trying to preach. We're not trying to tell people not to drink alcohol. I drink alcohol. Everybody in my company, drinks alcohol. We're not, but there are times and there are places and, there are people that can't, and it's about choice and inclusivity.
Hi, Lono Nation, and thank you for joining me on today's conversation. Today, I'm chatting with Mr. Gary Reed. Gary is the CEO for Bolle non-alcoholic sparkling wines. Bolle is a range of Italian sparkling wines that use a unique secondary fermentation to bring an authentic flavor profile to your glass. This technique is currently patent pending, so while he won't be able to give away too many trade secrets, I'm really keen to know as much about this process as he's able to tell me. We'll also have a chat about the brand, past, present and future, and the journey so far and what's going to be next for the brand. So thank you so much for joining me on this week's conversation, Gary. How are you?
Thanks. Thank you, Denise. And I'm doing great. I'm getting a little bit of a cold, so sorry if my voice sounds a little muggy here, but I think we're doing great.
That's all right. It's not muggy. We go with husky. That you've got to put the spin on it. It sounds husky.
Sexy and husky, right?
There you go. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to have a chat. Sparkling wines are right at the top of my list of those flavors that I have always enjoyed when I was drinking alcohol professionally, and now less so. And I'm really pleased that I've got a couple of bottles behind me. For those on the
nice.
audio, Bolle's new bottles are absolutely beautiful. They look very elegant, very sophisticated, and the kind of bottles that you can open in any adult occasion. I feel like you're having a grown-up drink, which is what we're all looking for, isn't it? That's what everyone keeps telling me. You want adult drinks for adult drinking occasions. Just because they don't have alcohol doesn't mean that they need to be juvenile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, you've done a great job in that. But before we get too far into that side of things, I'd love to know a bit about the journey. And obviously, you yourself are the CEO. So, what it was your journey personally that led you to being where you are now. And then if you could also share us a little bit about Bolle's journey as well. So start where you'd like to start, Gary. How comes you're here today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me start, given you said it first, with my journey here. So I've been in business for many years, as you can probably tell, and I actually moved across to California, lived in California for about 21, 22 years, got married there, had kids there, got 3 kids, and then moved back to London about 5 years ago. I've always done tech companies. So I've been a founder multiple times and the CEO multiple times of technology companies, lead those companies, build them. And if we're successful, then somebody comes along and acquires the company. And a number of years ago, I started to get a little, I wanted to find something different to do. And so I was just exploring different ideas. And I remember, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I came across this brand in the UK. It was called Clean Co. And it made these non-alcoholic, spirit equivalents. And I bought some of them, bought them online, and I tried them and I was like, hey, these are actually pretty good. Particularly like the rum because, the flavor and the rum and Coke, was basically a rum and Coke flavor. And I actually tried to contact the founder of that company, but he ignored me, unfortunately. I think he was the Made in Chelsea star, right? So ignored me. But it piqued my interest in this whole kind of non-alcoholic, adult drink, space. Then I started to try, more and more non-alc beers and started to really enjoy them. I remember a friend of mine actually had a medical issue that meant he had to switch to non-alc. And so we used to have conversations about it. And then I started to try non-alc wines. And I think for me, I was looking to try to get involved in a company. I don't feel I'm the maker. I'm not the wine maker or the beer maker or the drinks maker. I'm more the sort of the outward, the sales, the marketing, the building of the business. And so I was trying to find somebody that was at a good place to partner with. And then I happened to find Bolle, complete by chance. I happened to, find Bolle and Roberto, who is the founder and the winemaker in the company, the smart one, as I like to call him. And the first thing I would always do was to drink the drink, and because I can't, represent a company whose drink that I don't like, personally. And I drank his drink, and I was like, "Wow, this is different. This is really, really good." So he and I started talking. We ended up getting together, and honestly, we were sort of the two halves of the whole. Where he's brilliant in terms of making the wine, inventing a whole new process for making the wine, and creating just a delicious product. But he's not really interested in the sales and the marketing and the other aspects of the business, and that's what I'm interested in. And so I did a lot of due diligence, actually, that also included finding dozens of people that were not related to me, that had no idea what I was doing, and comparing our product against other people's products. And then eventually I decided to both invest in the business, become the CEO of the business, and then go raise some external financing for the business as well, so we could be off on our journey. So that's me, but I'm the least interesting one. So maybe I can tell you Roberto's story and the
That'd be
Bolle
lovely,
story.
yeah.
So Roberto is from a part of Italy, Treviso, which is actually well known for two things, tiramisu and prosecco. So not bad, right?
That's a good great combination.
Exactly, two of my favorite things.
Yeah.
And he trained as an enologist when he was younger, but also went to university to study chemistry, and was a trained chemist, and then worked for many, many years in consumer goods companies. So he worked for Lucas A. Ribena, he worked for Mars, he worked for Reckitt Benckiser, and always in R&D department. So developing new product, understanding flavors, bringing new products to market, but never wine. Interestingly enough, never wine during this whole journey. But 3 years ago, he had the opportunity to leave one of these companies, and I think it was Dry January, actually, where he was trying to find a non-alcoholic wine that he really enjoyed. It's Italian. He loves his wine. Couldn't find one, and so said, "Okay, I'm a chemist. I'm an enologist. This is my calling. I need to go solve this problem." So set out, had a little bit of money to start with, set out, left his job, left his high-paying job, and decided to try to solve this problem. And it took him 3 years. And like any R&D project, right, you have multiple, failures along the way. And then, eventually he got to the point where, he poured everything into this. He poured his whole life into this. And eventually got to the point where he had the product, that we have today, but then needed a business partner. And so that's how the two pieces, came together. And I mean, I think he's a winemaking genius. I think what he's done is unbelievable. And I find myself very, very fortunate to consider him my partner.
That's a great journey from both sides, and I love that it's a case of a coming together of passions from people from very different backgrounds who are coming together and now working as a team with other people to produce something that I guess wasn't really on your radar very much until that moment where you went, "Oh, hang on a minute, there's something here. There's something that people want and that we can make great quality version of to serve a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, Denise, I got to the point in my life and in my
Hmm.
career where I wanted to do something that was a little bit more meaningful than
Yeah.
tech. Tech's fine. It's great. People make a lot of money, and it's great, and it's all around us. But it doesn't have any meaning. It doesn't give any real positive. And that's part of what I was looking for was something where, yes, I could help to build a very successful business, but it was also something that gave back and gave some positive back to the community and to the world, quite honestly.
I love that. I love that because I think you're right. There are lots of things that people can do obviously there's a million different types of careers out there, but there's a difference, isn't there, between just a job that you're doing to go, okay, right, come on, let's do this. We're going to make some money. It might be hugely successful, but if you're not getting something inside from it, if you're not really feeling like it's fulfilling you, then when you do find something that fulfills that, it's a whole other world, isn't it? Because you really feel like you're doing something that's worthwhile.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as my wife tells me, I'm completely obsessed with this. It's not work. It's not a job. I'm doing something that I love. I'm completely passionate about. I think about it all the time. Her and I will go out to dinner, and she'll say,
Mhm.
"Okay, you're not allowed to talk about Bolle." And it becomes all consuming because again, it's just it's a passion, and it's something that we'll be able to be very, very proud of.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, tell me about this passion then in terms of the drinks themselves. So, for those who are watching, you can see these beautiful bottles behind me. For those who are listening, behind me, I've got the Bolle blush and the white sparkling wines. So, can you tell me a little bit about each of these drinks? Then, how do they taste? What is the experience behind them? And then I'd love to know more about this fermentation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think the interesting thing about Bolle really is how the drinks are made. And I'll certainly talk through that in a second. But today we have two main drinks, both sparkling wine. We have a Blanc de Blanc and a rosé. Um, they are both made with a Chardonnay base, which is about 75% of what's in there. And then we add Sylvain for the Blanc de Blanc, which is
Okay.
another white grape. And then for the rosé, we add Pinot Noir, and
Okay.
that takes place in the secondary fermentation. In terms of the flavors, what we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that this was not sweet. I think you find a lot of non-alcoholic wines are quite sweet, and that's not what we wanted to make. What we wanted to make in our objective was to make something that people that like drinking wine like drinking our product. All right,
Yeah.
so we call it the non-alcoholic wine for wine drinkers. And maybe if you don't like wine, you may not like our product. In fact, you probably won't like our product, honestly, because it just does taste like wine. The Blanc de Blanc, it's a you first get it with the bouquet. You get the aromas of sort of apple and pear, and you get that through in the flavor profile as well. A little bit of citrus there. Some toasted notes as well. And what's interesting again, for non-alcoholic wine is that it really does have a finish. So it will stay in your mouth. It has a length and it has a finish. And this is all going back to the way in which we make the wine.
Mhm.
So that's what enables us to create those that finish and that real kind of wine feel, if you like, that mouth feel that you get with wine. The rosé made in very similar way, and but a different flavor profile, a little bit more kind of fruit forward, flavor profile. So a little bit more strawberry, red berries, black currant, a little bit of violet, a little hint of fresh herbs. But again, a rich finish. I was actually with an owner of a series of wine bars in London the other day, and we were tasting the rosé against the rosé prosecco, and he was showing me how the finish on our wine was actually so much richer than the prosecco, and how it stayed in the flavors kind of stayed in the mouth longer. So that's the two products that we have today, the two products that we've released.
And that's really important, isn't it? That finish, that length in non-alc wine, because you're in a tough category in this space. People have such high expectations when it comes to their wines. We put so much stock in wine and what it does for us and how we enjoy it and the occasions that we have it. And, it's got to complement the food. It's got to make the meal. It's got to, add to the experience. And so people have a lot of high expectations. When it comes to non-alc wine, I find that people just always want to find something that replaces that wine moment, but has that wine feel. And so a lot of people are struggling to find those flavors that they want. And I always say, the non-alc wine industry is very young, and there are producers out there who are working day and night to make these drinks better. And they're going to be different. They don't have alcohol in them, so they're going to be different. But that experience, it sounds like, that's what you're really trying to recreate for people, that feeling, that taste experience without the alcohol in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you a story, around that experience. Recently I drove down to the south of France, and door to door, it's a 15-hour drive. And because I'm, a little bit of an idiot sometimes, I decide to do it in a single day. And I was getting close to my destination, and I ended up spending 2 hours in a traffic jam, which is not what you want to do.
Ouch.
Anyway, I arrived at my destination, and you know what it's like. You're a little bit stressed, and I wanted nothing more than a glass of wine. That's all I wanted, was a glass of wine. I was just like, I just want to sit down and drink, a glass of wine. And I actually had some Bolle with me, and I said, you know what? I'm going to try whether Bolle does the same thing for me. Is it going to relax me? I ended up sitting there. I drank 2 glasses of it, and it worked. It was unbelievable. I didn't need the alcohol and it was not the alcohol that was making me relax. It was that wine experience. We've seen it with many, many people. One of the people doing our tasting, was a gentleman, and his wife tasted it as well, and she drank 2 glasses, and she sent me a WhatsApp message. She said, I feel buzzed after 2 glasses. And, because it was that experience was telling your brain, that's how you should feel. And that's what we're trying to create. We're trying to, allow people to have the wine experience, but to give them the benefit of having the wine experience without the alcohol. Absolutely.
And I love that story because it exemplifies what a lot of people in this space are trying to encourage others to recognize, which is that when it comes to low, no, and light drinks, it's not about removing alcohol. It's about replacing the ritual with something else. And it's just that, as you said, you were really stressed. You just wanted to sit down and have a glass of wine, or whether it's a long day after work, or the kids are just driving you crazy, as mine were this morning on the way to school. You just want to have that wine moment. You want that ritual but without the alcohol. And so many people, and this is why I love low no drinks, because so many people have said that now that they've got something that they can use in place to still have that ritual, they don't miss the alcohol because it was the moment that was important.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we were at the Oxford Wine Festival this last
Oh, yeah.
weekend. And so it was a show attended by about 2,000 people, obviously all wine drinkers. There were about 50 different, tabletops. 49 of them were alcoholic wine, and then there was one.
Just you. Oh, gosh.
Just us. And, it was almost like, Daniel into the den of lions, right? But honestly, that's how we want to be judged, right? We want to be judged as a wine. We want to be a serious wine. And we will continue to improve the product as we go as well. And so, we need to. The competitions that we're entering, we just won. The Blanc de Blanc won a gold medal. The Rosé won a platinum medal at International Wine and Spirits competition in San Diego 2 weekends ago. Thank you. We got the best best non-alcoholic in the show. But again, it's a wine show judged by sommeliers. And that's what we want because, for us, that's the standard that we need to aspire to and that we need to judge ourselves against. But was really interesting at the Oxford Wine Festival. So there was a percentage of the people that clearly sought us out. They came over to our table looking for a good non-alcoholic wine. Can you, can we taste? Probably about 10% of people. Not that many, but about 10% of people. Then there was another big percentage of people that we had to pull them over to the table, right? Because, we had a big sign up saying, non-alcoholic wine. And they take a look at the sign and they'd start walking the other way. But we were like, no, come over, because they had to pay, right? They had to pay £1 for a sample at this show. And they would come over and we would give them a taste. Half the time I'd have to say, look, if you don't like it, we're not charging you. Simple as that. Everybody loved it, right? Everybody, loved it. There was another percentage of people that didn't read the sign. And so they just came over because it looks like champagne, right? They just came over, they thought they would get it. Oh, great. We get a champagne tasting for just £1. They thought, oh, that's excellent. And we let them taste it and we asked them what they thought. And then we told them afterwards that it was non-alcoholic, blew them away. They did not know and they did not understand. And then, unfortunately, there was a smaller percentage of people that were just, I guess, bigoted. Would that be the right word to use? That would just, it's all for, there's no way I'm going to drink that. Like, non-alcoholic wine is just wrong. And I remember I had this conversation with one gentleman who was actually being quite rude. He was with his wife and 2 friends, right? They all loved it. And as soon as he found out it was non-alcohol, he was like, no, it's just wrong. That's what he kept saying to me. It's just wrong.
Really?
He said, I might like the flavor, but it's just wrong. And I was like, well, what's wrong with it? Tell me. Well, I want to go down the pub with my mates. And if I want to have a drink, I want to feel a bit of a buzz by that. I'm like, okay. And no one's saying you can't do that. And it's like, why would you do this then? I said, well, what if one of your mates got a medical issue that meant they couldn't drink alcohol? What would you have them do? Do you want them to sit at home and not join you at the pub? Or would you rather they just sit there and drink water or Coke? Or maybe they can sit there and have a non-alcoholic beer if you're all drinking beer, or they can have a non-alcoholic wine and they can actually still feel like, they're part of your social, circle. And the guy completely, I saw it in his face. He thought about it and he completely changed. And then he was like, oh yeah, there is, yeah. And I was like, whoa. And then there's people that are driving. There's ladies that, that are pregnant. There's all sorts of reasons. There's some people just don't want alcohol, at all. My daughter, she's 19. She doesn't drink alcohol. She'll have like one glass at the beginning of the evening, but she still goes to clubs. She's at university. She still goes to clubs. She's still out till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, dancing away. And, it's just, you got to get your mind, around that. You got to, and those people that are bigoted, look, if that's the way they want to be, that's the way they want to be. But if you explain it to them, a lot of them, do come around.
I always find it quite amusing when people get so het up like that chap. What's the point? Why would you do this? It's as if they feel attacked somehow. And one of the reasons why I don't demonize alcohol is because I want to open this up to people to realize that this category is not about saying don't drink alcohol, it's bad, you're a bad person for still enjoying a drink. It's about saying there are millions of people out there who want a choice, and we just want to give them an option.
Absolutely.
And like you said, maybe somebody's pregnant, maybe somebody's driving, maybe they got a big meeting in the morning, maybe they're only popping out for a bit and they got to go home and put the kids to bed and they don't want to do that with booze. There could be a myriad of reasons, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter what those reasons are. It's just about giving people an opportunity to have something and still be able to join in with their mates. And I love that you said that to this chap. Would you rather your friend stayed at home and not see you because medically perhaps he can't drink, or would you rather that he had options, everything from your wonderful wines to maybe if he wanted a beer or a spirit, that there's enough choice out there so that people can still join in?
Absolutely.
And just for people to understand that this is the low, no, and light category is not about taking something away. It's not about judging you. It's not about saying don't drink. It's just about saying here are some choices for everybody so we can all enjoy the pub together.
It's exactly right. And one of our on-trade partners, it's the Bar de Champagne in Covent Garden. When I first started talking to them, they didn't have any non-alcoholic wine. And that wasn't a lack of demand from their customers. It was they hadn't found anything that they felt met their standards. They have a sort of master sommelier, and it's it's very important to them the wines that are on their wine list. But when I talked to the general manager there, he said, "Yeah, we absolutely use business because we get groups of people. They come to the door." And it's not that none of the group is drinking alcohol. It's that there's one or two people that are not drinking alcohol. They don't want to come in and, have their mate, sit in there drinking water or Coke or something. They want their mate to, just like if you're going out, for dinner with somebody that was vegan, right? You wouldn't take them into a restaurant and say, here, you can eat a plate of chips because there's actually no vegan options on the menu.
100%.
So we see that, more and more as well. And it is about choice. It's about choice and it's about inclusivity. And they're two key words for us at the company. We're not trying to preach. We're not trying to tell people not to drink alcohol. I drink alcohol. Everybody in my company, drinks alcohol. We're not, but there are times and there are places and, there are people that can't, and it's about choice and inclusivity. It's about a personal choice and not being, demonized, maybe that's a little bit stronger word, but not being felt like, ostracized, maybe it's a better word, to use. So yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100%.
I love that. I love that, that you just said there that you yourself and other people in the company, still consume alcohol, because it just goes to show that this is open to everybody. It's not just a category for the sober. It is a category for people that just want to drink less for a time. And I also find it interesting that you mentioned sommeliers and the Bar de Champagne and places like that, because obviously there's a lot of tradition in wine and sparkling wines and champagnes. And it's really quite challenging for a lot of the wine producers that I speak to in this industry. They find that sommeliers are steeped in tradition and how things should be. We're talking about centuries of making these drinks. How are you finding that when you're having these conversations? I know you've mentioned a couple of people you've spoken to, but in general, have you noticed that the doors are easier to push open lately as you try to get your product into these places that don't have an offering yet?
Yeah. Again, it is a broad mix. I mean, I'll tell you a negative story first, which is that there's a wine bar actually not too far along from where I live. Very kind of high end wine bar, and somebody from our company went and they talked to them, and the general manager there said, hey, we bought non-alcoholic wine before. Nobody drank it. We lost all the money on it. We're not doing that again. That's a shame. And actually, I'm going to go back and talk to him because I think there's ways in which we can, help him to be successful.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would offer him the wine on consignment. It's like, look, if you don't sell any of it, then, we'll take it back. You don't have to pay us, for that because, I want to show people this, but that's the negative story, and that's really the exception. The vast majority, while sommeliers can be a little bit, what should we say, snobbish? Can we say snobbish?
Stuck in their ways.
Stuck in their ways. There you go. That's a better phrase to use. But they understand. They're starting to understand that they have to move with the times. That's what their consumers want. That's what their customers, want. And so, okay, now we've got to do some things around no-load drinks on the menu. Not just wine, but a complete, selection of drinks on the menu. And so, yeah, we're getting, good feedback. And as I say, this owner of this wine bar the other day was, I've got so many stories of people that have tasted our wine and just love it. And sommeliers, really enjoy it. I can see it in their face, when they first pour, when they smell, swill it, they taste it. It's kind of funny when you sit there with a tasting, right? Because there's that moment of silence, right? While you're waiting, for the verdict to come. And, and I still get nervous, right? I still get nervous today, even though I'm super confident and, I really haven't had anybody come back and say, they've come back with, a lot of different comments, but generally, people really appreciate it and see what we're doing. And so, fantastic. I would say the times are definitely changing, and it's starting to, non-alcoholic wine is starting to become more and more accepted. Absolutely.
Fantastic. I think that leads us very nicely then, as we're talking about the flavor, onto how your unique process has lent itself to helping you to create these amazing flavors that everyone from sommeliers to consumers are really enjoying. So if you could, for me, just a brief overview of I guess a normal or a regular fermentation, and then what it is that you do that's so different, and what result is that producing for you in the bottle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I give a sort of brief overview of the market, right? There is wine alternatives, where they're not wine, but they're trying to create a wine-like, drink. So there's lots of those on the market. Perfectly good and acceptable drinks. Then there are people that do not ferment the grapes at all. And so it's sort of like grape juice, and they add other things in again to try to create that alternative to wine. But the definition of wine is fermented grapes or fermented fruit. And so, again, it's already wine, but it's a perfectly fine drink for anybody that enjoys, that drink. And then there are people like ourselves and others where we actually start from an alcoholic wine. And the process is you take the alcoholic wine, in our case, a Chardonnay, and then you run it through a dealcoholization machine. Okay, there's multiple different types of machines available. There's a reverse osmosis, which is sort of older technology now and is super bad for the environment because the amount of water waste that it uses. There's a machine called a spinning cone that again is a little bit older technology, but the more modern technology now is something called a vacuum distillation machine. And the vacuum distillation essentially, heats the wine so that the alcohol evaporates, just like a normal distillation process. But it does so in a vacuum to lower the temperature that it needs to heat the wine up.
Okay.
Now, that's actually where the problem lies, right? The problem lies at that point because wine doesn't like heat. um, you know, and even though you don't have to go as high as normal, wine doesn't like heat. And so the aromas, the structure of the wine gets destroyed. The aromas get lost, the flavor gets lost. And what comes out the other end is, it's really quite bland. You've lost a lot of that. And, we use, I believe it's the most advanced machine in the world. But even so, when it comes out the other side, it's of very questionable quality. So what other people do then is that they try to rebuild the flavor profile of the wine. So they might add sugar in, they might add some other flavors in, they might add other pieces in to try to rebuild that flavor profile of the wine. And that's where we differ. So we take that base Chardonnay that's been dealcoholized, we put it back into the fermentation tank. We add more grape juice. So, for instance, in the case of the rosé, we've got the base Chardonnay. Now we're adding the Pinot Noir. We're adding yeast back in, and we're putting it through a whole nother fermentation. So, sparkling wine, Prosecco, Champagne goes through two fermentations, and so do we. And how can the question then is, how can we do that and not produce alcohol? And the reason we can do that and not produce alcohol is because of the yeast that we use, which we have developed, and we have the exclusive license and patent, for that yeast. So it takes it through the full fermentation. You get all of the flavor profile, you get everything else, but it just produces a trace amount of alcohol. And that is where the brilliance of Roberto comes in. Now, there's a lot of other steps into the process. There's a lot of other things that you have to do. But the bottom line is it's pure wine. There's nothing added. It's fermented grapes. We ferment them once, dealcoholize it, ferment them, a second time, put it in the bottle, add a little bit of carbon dioxide just to increase the fizz. There's nothing else added. It's pure wine. And if you look at the back, of a lot of different bottles of alcohol-free wine, you'll see there's all sorts of different ingredients. Sparkling water, is in there. Added flavors, added sugar. But because this is, so pure and so simple, all of that flavor profile, all of the wine profile, all of that mouthfeel, the finish, it's all just created by the fermentation. And so if you think about it, I mean, I often say like the most brilliant ideas sometimes are the simplest. And this is a really simple idea, but it's really, really difficult to be able to do. And I think, as you said before, we do have the patents, filed, quite some time ago on this. They're winding their way through. They've got, patents take years, as you know. They've already had multiple stages of approval, and I think we are the only non-alcoholic wine company in the world to do a secondary fermentation on that dealcoholized wine, and that's part of the patent as well.
That's really, really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So if I'm understanding correctly then, so it's a normal process of making wines, and then you kind of make the wine again, right? So after you dealcoholize it, you're using this special yeast, and this yeast then, it just doesn't allow as much fermentation as the traditional yeast that you would have used in the first batch. Is that right?
That's right. It doesn't create the alcohol. It goes through the full fermentation process, but it just doesn't create the alcohol. And I can't tell you any more about it. And actually, I don't even know any more about it, much more than that, because it is our intellectual property.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's literally one or two people in the world that know this. And it's because for us this is it enables so much, and it will enable so much for the future as well, because non-alcoholic wine, it's a different product than normal wine, right? Just like non-alcoholic beer is a different product than normal beer, and so you have to think about the problem differently. And that's where that's what Roberto did, and that's where his sort of background as research and development in these large companies for decades, where his background as a chemist, and his background in winemaking is sort of a unique set of skills that came together to create this solution. And I mean, he worked on this for 3 years, on his own, with no money, with not being paid, with spending his own money on this, with, doing all sorts of, giving up all sorts of things, personally to solve the problem. And, but what's come out of it is, again, I think, nothing short of brilliant. And you'll taste the wine, and hopefully you will agree with that as well.
That's absolutely fascinating. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask then. So you've got the sparkling white and the sparkling rosé. This technique sounds as if it could lend itself to quite a range of wines. Are there any plans then to lend that to perhaps making some stills? And I have to ask on behalf of everyone that keeps asking me about red wine. Where do you see Bolle taking this technology in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So the answer to that question is yes, to all of the above.
Fantastic.
We have actually we've already made some of those, not at scale that we're ready to sell, but we've already made sort of in the lab, so to speak, the still white, that's a Chardonnay. I personally haven't tasted it. It's still with Roberto and a close few people that we use as wine tasters. So we know that we can do that. We know that we can do the still rosé as well. We also have experimented with the red, and we know that we can do the red also. The third member of the team, by the way, that I haven't talked about is Steve. Steve is based in Napa Valley and is a winemaker, and has been a 25-year winemaker, focusing primarily on red wines. So he's done a number of sort of celebrity wines and worked at a number of the wineries. And so, bringing his expertise to play as well is certainly, super interesting for us. And so, yes, eventually you will see a full range from us. We're also thinking about making a more premium champagne. And again, we can do that because this secondary fermentation, we can leave the product on lees for multiple months or a year. And so you can start to get that more kind of yeasty, brioche type of flavor that you get in a more premium champagne as well. So we can and we will make a whole range of products. It's been a discussion internally whether we should make them now or wait till later. But just because we've only launched recently, and so we've decided no, let's get our customers first. Let's get established first with the two products that we've got, and then we will start to release the additional products.
Yeah. Excellent. That makes sense. Get it out there, get it tested, get it into people's hands and glasses, get the feedback, and build on that to releasing your next ones, which sound absolutely exciting. So before we go any further, then let's let people know where they can go and get hold of your two sparklings. And also you're doing a special promotion, aren't you? Because we're recording this today on the 1st of October. So can you tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, you can buy the product on the website. It's bolledrinks.com. So just Bolle and drinks, bolledrinks.com. And we're offering free shipping right now as well, both in the UK and the US. People outside of Europe, just send me an email, just info@bolledrinks.com, and we can ship to the rest of Europe. We just don't put it on the website because we don't have a guaranteed shipping like we do in the UK, right, which is a 24-hour shipping, etc. For Sober October, as you know, Sober October came in. It was the Macmillan Cancer charity that initially started it, and so we decided that anything on the website purchased during the month of October, we'll take 10%, and we're going to donate that to Macmillan. I've personally witnessed some of the work that they've done. For people that are in that situation, they really just a godsend, organization, and so we're very, very happy to do that. Actually, funnily enough, I checked this morning. We got an order at 10 minutes past midnight last night in the UK, and of course we hadn't even announced this yet. In fact, we've still not put it on social or anything. But I did send the purchaser a nice little personal email to say, look, you didn't know that yet, but you're the first person to effectively make a donation to Macmillan. And so we'll do that for the whole of October. And hopefully we can, raise, a good bit of money for that. And again, it's part of the ethos of the company. You don't see us coming out with 10% off vouchers, 20% off vouchers. That's not something that we do. I would much rather take that 10% and give it to charity, and give it to, especially with a worthwhile cause like Macmillan.
Oh, that's lovely. So just to confirm for people, it's bolledrinks.com. That's BOLLE drinks.com. Is that right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. And I'm sure that people can also search that on your socials as well, on Instagram. And I know that, Gary, you personally are very active on LinkedIn as well. So people want to go and find out more about you. I'll make sure that's in all of the show notes below for everyone as well.
Yeah, and I tend to use LinkedIn a little bit kind of more like, a little bit more casual. We try to connect a little bit more with our customers. And so maybe we talk about things that, you wouldn't normally talk about. It's not advertising for us. It's, it's just talking about stuff. 100 things happen every day, at this company. Not all of them good, right? There's lots of things that we struggle with as well. And it's always been an ethos of mine is that you can connect with customers just by being transparent, honest, and authentic, with them. And that's what we try to be.
I'm 100% with you there. I used to be so terrified of LinkedIn. I always used to think it was just like this really, it was a digital online equivalent of the city. I felt it was really corporate and really sort of judgy. But I've actually found that when I'm on it myself, the things that resonate most with people is when I post about, the other day I had to cancel somebody else's recording because my little girl was sick. And it's so nice that you talk about this, you be open and honest about you're trying to build your business. And lots of people come in and say, oh my God, yeah, me too. Oh, it's so hard, isn't it? And it lets people just see the real side of you, the real person behind all the business stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely, and because stuff happens in the
Hmm.
drinks business, as I'm rapidly finding out,
Yeah.
and every day, there's things, kind of going wrong, or there's things to figure out.
Hmm.
For instance, as we were due to bottle our wine. This is a couple of months back. Now we were
Uh-huh.
due to bottle the wine, and I had persuaded my partners in the business that we also needed to make some magnums. So I don't know if you can see them behind me.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
I love magnums. I think they're great. They're great as giveaways. They're great, for celebrations.
So much fun.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, there's so much fun. But you know what? From a winemaker's and from a bottling perspective, they are a real pain. They're a real
Okay.
pain because the bottling machines don't handle them, right? And so you
Oh.
need to, even though you're doing, 7,000 or 8,000 other bottles,
Hmm.
you have to do the magnums by hand. So you're
Oh,
literally
okay.
sticking the label on by hand. You're putting the, the cork in. You're doing everything on those bottles by hand, and so it's why most people don't make them. It's why most people
Ah.
don't make them until they're a much higher kind of level of production. But I wanted to do it because I think that, as I say, that they're great, for marketing. They're great to give a good on trade customer, for instance, one to put on the bar. It's great advertising. I think they're wonderful. But the provider of the bottles for the magnums was a day late getting the bottles to us, getting them to the winery.
Oh.
And we can't go halfway through the bottling and then stop, right? Because at
Right.
that
Right.
point the wine is being exposed to the oxygen. So then the
Yes. Of
winery just
course.
cancelled the bottling on us completely. And then, because they cancelled the bottling, but then we had our next batch of wine that needed to go into those tanks, and it
Oh
needed to go in
no.
that day, because it couldn't just, sit there.
Hmm.
And so, just these kinds of things, it's sort of like a domino effect, right? One person is one day late with something. That means this gets cancelled. That means that there's a problem with this over there. And you end up with all these problems to solve just because of one seemingly minor, issue. But sharing that stuff, because that's life,
Yeah.
right? Life is not perfect, life is what it is. And just sharing that, I just think makes people realize, look, we're all human,
Yeah.
and we're all doing these things, and we're all struggling with the same kinds of things in our lives.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I think you're right. It humanizes everyone. It makes us all realize that it takes that pressure off to be perfect when people that see brands and people working in companies that they admire going, this went really wrong, and this is
That's
how it was
right.
supposed to go, and it didn't go that way. Everyone else kind of can breathe a sigh of relief and go, oh, okay, all right, I don't have to be perfect. They're not perfect either. We're all just trying to figure it out as we go along.
That's right. That's right. And there's that
Oh,
saying, isn't it,
beautiful.
about with your kids? It's like, hey, look, I don't know how to be a parent. I'm just trying to
Oh,
figure it out as I go.
I
It's
always say, Gary, that to me, parenting is just a series of best guesses. I don't think anybody knows how to figure it out. Don't listen to
no,
Mum's Net. Nobody knows.
that's right, exactly. And just when you think you got it figured out, your kids will do something and completely,
Exactly.
bring you right back down to earth again.
Exactly. Gary, before I let you go, I've got my last question, which, as you'll know, I ask everybody who comes on the show. And obviously, we're in middle of autumn now. I'm looking out my window; it's raining, so I might need to change the premise of this. But this is my now infamous barbecue question, which is: it's a lovely sunny day. Use your imagination, please, and
Uh-huh.
you're off to a barbecue with your wife or your friends, and for that day you've decided you're not drinking for whatever reasons. Doesn't matter. Um, so the question is, other than your amazing, beautiful, stunning,
Thank
sparkling
you.
white and rosé wines, what other drinks in the low, no, or light space do you like to enjoy when you're not drinking alcohol?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something, right? Because I have, and I used to drink quite a bit. And I can't remember the last time I drank an alcoholic beer. Because and there's two particular beers that I really like, from a brand perspective. I like Lucky Saint. And I was actually at the pub just last week, meeting a friend, and we both sat there with our pints of Lucky Saint. And I'm just like, this is fabulous, because I was going to a meeting right after that, but you can do that now.
Yes.
It actually opens up for, and I also like the beers from Athletic Brewing. And the golden, I like the golden, but they have so many that I just haven't got anywhere near trying, most of them. But if you look in my fridge right now, there's a bunch of different non-alc beers in there, and there's not a single alcoholic beer. I actually ordered a Deliveroo last night. And they gave me a free Corona Zero with the order, which I sat and drank last night. So yeah, I'd say
brilliant.
Lucky Saint or Athletic, Brewing, the beers are great. And I mean, I'm just like, what's the point? Why would I drink an alcoholic beer anymore? I'm sure I will. I just don't know. I just don't know why.
I love that. I love that you say, what's the point? Because it's kind of like you flipped it on its head, So a lot of people, we started off talking about like that chap who says, alcohol-free wine is wrong. What's the point? And now there's you on the other end saying, after all this time and now being able to enjoy alcohol-free beers and go to my meeting afterwards, what's the point in me drinking the alcoholic beer? But there might be times when you do see a point in it. But I love that it's just so open now.
Absolutely. And somebody said something to me recently, Denise, right, where they described Bolle, and they said, the great thing about the Bolle is that you have all of the flavor profile, etc., and the wine experience, but you also have a benefit of no alcohol. And it was sort of subtle, what they'd said in a way. But I thought about it afterwards. I was like, yes, we're not taking something away. We're actually adding something, right? So it's not, it's a nice tasting wine. Oh, but it doesn't have alcohol. It's a nice tasting wine, and it doesn't have alcohol. And that wasn't like, it was just. I just noticed there was a subtle difference, but I loved it. And of course the wine is super low calories as well, right? It's like 15 calories for 100 mil. You can almost have a whole bottle of Bolle for a glass of champagne, and so, yeah, truly I've had to catch myself multiple times when I've been drinking some in the evening. I'm like, I better stop now. And then I'm like, why?
Why?
Why? It's good. It's healthy for me. It's got no alcohol. I can drink as much as I want. Price notwithstanding, of course. But from a health perspective, why not?
Absolutely. Gary, I absolutely love that. And I think it's a perfect note to end on. Just want to remind everybody that if you want to go and try a bottle of Bolle's sparkling rosé or Blanc de Blanc, head on over to bolledrinks.com. That's BOLLE drinks.com. Gary, thank you so much for joining me today.
Great. Thank you, Denise. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.